Many thanks to DayZ Podcast, Pandemonium, Lion Lost, Fatal Attraction Vanilla servers, Atlas and Mutated Jurassic Outbreak server for making this video possible. DayZ 1.21 has just been released to experimental, so like usual I've given everything a quick look to see what's new and what has changed this update. First up, most importantly, the Crossbow. There's not 4 variants, there's not 4 skins, there's actually 5 different skins for the Crossbow. I'm not sure if this other one is a bugged one or it's the previous version and it doesn't work correctly. I don't know, but there's 5 of them, so I'm not going to complain. These 5 crossbows can use the improvised bolts, the feathered bolts and the spawned in bolts. So there's 3 different variants of bolts, here they all are. They've also added the sword in this patch. This was in the game before and so was the mace, and these 2 seem to do a lot of damage. With the theme of medieval, chainmail has been added, so torso, leggings and a coif, but the coif gets replaced by the Norse helm, with the Norse helm being new too, so these 2 cannot be combined together, they can be one or the other. You've also got a chest plate which is actually a vest, so you can wear this over the torso chainmail if you want, and the medieval boots are not made of metal, they're made of leather. Falling from a height to take health and bone damage has been changed. I'm not sure exactly how it's changed, but initially I can see that shoes become damaged very quickly from falling, and also you take bleeds now. Even if your shoes are pristine, you will get bleeds when falling. Ladders have been an issue this patch and previous patches, but they've been fixed now, but do be careful at the top of ladders still. Wool gloves have been added in several different variants. There's a lot more inside the game files. I couldn't get them to spawn for some reason, and there's a fingerless version too. Feathers can be gained from chickens to create the feathered bolts that have been added to the game, the ones that I showed you earlier, but you cannot get feathers from chicken coops like in the previous engine. Explosion sounds are very different. I didn't test how far away you can hear them, but they sound very strange at the moment. I'm pretty sure this will get fixed though. There's a new status indicator for leg health, and this leg health indicator seems to be completely and utterly attached to the bone stat that we have in the game, so I'm guessing there's different tiers that drop down, and when you get to a low enough amount, that's when the leg fracture icon appears. They fixed several cases of items falling through the map. I couldn't replicate throwing stuff through the map, so it seems like this might have been fixed now. You can't throw stuff through the floor, but it does look kind of janky still. This should bounce off the surface, but it's just getting stuck in there. At first I believed it was a knife stabbing into the floor, but after testing it is no. With these changes come vehicle collision changes, and this is very strange. I know this is not an example of what's going to happen in the game, but when I did this corkscrew and landed, as you can see, the suspension is completely destroyed. It does appear that the frame rate for this collision hitbox does tie much better to the vehicle as it's moving. Although it does go in front of the vehicle like it did in the last patch, it seems to be updating much faster, and therefore the collisions seem to be much more realistic. Including this next fix in this video is a bit controversial. You can dig near a wall to see through the wall, but this has now been fixed. It pushes you back away from the wall, so 1.21 onwards you cannot do this anymore. It pushes you back from the wall, and also to anybody that does this, you suck. Birds and cricket ambient sounds would cut off instantly when a player shoots within 500 meters of the sound source, but now when you shoot, it doesn't change anything at all. I believe this might be broken because explosions will now stop birds and crickets from playing their sounds. You can now adjust the brightness of the UI with this slider. It doesn't go right down to 0, but it does include most of the UI elements. Players should no longer fall through the map when getting attacked by infected or going prone. This was a big problem last patch. A lot of people told me about this. If you experience it still, let the devs know. Eyewear can now spawn on infected by default. It seems to be ramped up on experimental. I don't know if this is going to change on stable, but as you can see here, there's 2 of them, one with the red head torch and one with the normal head torch. And this is going to be really spooky for players that don't know this, because they're going to think there's a player. Riot shields have been severely nerfed. As you can see here, the radiator no longer tanks any bullets, so I'm going to test all the other ones, of course. I'll also test the distance that lights can be seen. As you can see from the glow stick, this used to be seen at 1100 meters on the previous patch, and now it's barely 200 meters. Some of the other stuff that was changed in this patch is the horn of the M3S. They've added game hints to the loading screen, with new hints being added. Items that you spawn with automatically get assigned to your hotbar now. When you're drowning with a broken leg, you no longer get this glitchy camera going on. The reload sounds of the Pioneer have been fixed now. In order to clean up bloody hands, you need to take your gloves off. The zoom functionality is no longer reduced when you're fast moving in prone or crouch position, so the zoom that was nerfed last patch will only happen when you're standing up. Thrown item impact sounds have been changed for metallic items depending on the targeted surface. If you watch my impact sounds video, you know that it's quite buggy when it comes to metal objects. Grown plants will now stay in position once they're fully grown, twice as long as previous patch, before they start to decay. They increased the minimum amount of quick slots available to characters, so when you're a fresh spawn you will get 4 slots down here instead of 3 now, but the amount of additional quick slots you get from gear has been reduced. Interacting with the power generator will now refresh the lifetime of all items connected to it, including the power generator itself of course. Washing your hands now has a continuous action, much like pulse checking was last patch, it got changed. The animation for consuming pills or tablets has been changed. The visuals of the PSO1, PSO11 and the P187 or the Kashtan optics have been changed. The improvised fishing rod can now be dismantled back into a rope and a stick. The drying rate of clothing has been adjusted to correctly reflect item location and outside influences, which means the sun might dry your clothes much faster now, and also clothing inside vehicles would dry faster. On top of this, they've increased how long it takes to wring out your clothing when they're wet. And finally, the flag of the winners of the Lights Out event has been added to this patch. Those are the details I believe everybody should know going into a first look at 1.21, and I will obviously go into more detail like usual on each of these new changes. For now, you can get more details on my previous video for this patch here, going over what the devs said during their live stream, or you can watch the live stream yourself using this VOD, or check out the patch notes to see the details of the changes in this patch. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good patch.